ethnic cleansing in the ICC eyes is itself a war crime. So obviously, Trump would not consider himself to be in any shape or of any kind to be a war criminal. In fact, he regards himself as the potential savior of Gaza, willing to invest and rebuild in its future.
Let's start, Sarah, just with the basics. What is this executive order on the ICC? What has Trump done? What has he signed? What's in it?
Okay, well, basically, he is wreaking revenge on the ICC for its action against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, who is being accused of war crimes. And now, it started as a sort of even-handed thing where Hamas leaders were also accused of behaving badly, but the ones that were in the frame have actually since been killed by Israel, and that's leaving Bibi Netanyahu exposed. Now, the executive order is basically sanctioning the ICC and its officials for this action and taking individual retribution against some of them for seeking to victimize or single out potential US people and their allies for alleged criminal behavior. And this has long been a bugbear for the Americans because they have never really accepted the authority of the International Criminal Court. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't like any supranational organizations, full stop, let alone the ICC. And the reason why it's always been unpopular with America since its founding in 2002, not long after the 9/11 attacks, I should say, is that America has always felt that its officials are likely to be summoned in front of the criminal court. For example, Donald Rumsfeld, the defense secretary, came very close to being prosecuted himself. He ran afoul of some charges brought in France against him for the war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan. So the ICC is always considered to be something for the other nations. America's quite content for the ICC to do its thing as long as it doesn't bring any cases against America. And now with this executive order, Trump is broadening it to its allies, which is, of course, especially directed at its ally, Israel.
Yeah.
So it's really to safeguard Israel and Netanyahu from prosecution.
And this has been a week where Trump has been keen to do that, to stand alongside Israel, and we note the press conference in the Oval Office where he sat with the Israeli Prime Minister and spoke about the Gaza Riviera, of course, which will forever go down in Trump folklore, I think.
Well, yes, it will. And of course, Trump critics would argue that what he said at that press conference about cleaning out Gaza comes perilously close to ethnic cleansing of Gaza. And ethnic cleansing in the ICC eyes is itself a war crime. So obviously, Trump would not consider himself to be in any shape or of any kind to be a war criminal. In fact, he regards himself as the potential savior of Gaza, willing to invest and rebuild in its future. But as we know, opinions vary. I should say, though, that Britain itself is not a member of the ICC. There is this fear amongst Britain and America that it will be in the crosshairs for war crimes. And so what Trump is doing actually has bipartisan consensus. Interestingly, Chuck Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, has announced that he supports this executive order. And because he is also unhappy at the attempt by the ICC to brand Netanyahu a war criminal.
I think it's fascinating, the US relationship with the ICC and also Trump's, because in his first term, he imposed sanctions on ICC officials who were investigating whether US forces had committed war crimes in Afghanistan. And then President Biden lifted those sanctions. I do just wonder, Sarah, if there's any measurable impact of sanctions placed by the US on the ICC What can we say by way of impact and precedent?
I don't think, I mean, I think in terms of on the ICC, it's more of a declaration of
Yeah.
hostility. On individuals, it can make a difference. I mean, it's unclear to what extent, but it sounds like there are going to be attempts to so-called debank them,
Mm.
i.e., make sure that certain financial assets, are not able to be held, in, I don't know, US banks or whatever, and also to stop leading members of the ICC and their families from traveling to the US. So, it's certainly going to be a nuisance for those officials, and perhaps more than a nuisance. We don't know just yet, but it's also a symbolic gesture of support for Benjamin Netanyahu and an act of protest against the ICC for its behavior towards America in the past and its potential behavior in the future.
Yeah, I know it's one of the responses from this one from Amnesty International Secretary General, saying the order sends the message that Israel is above the law and the universal principles of international justice. Today's executive order is vindictive, it is aggressive, it undermines and destroys what the international community has painstakingly constructed over decades, if not centuries, global rules that are applicable to everyone and aim to deliver justice for all. And this is the ideological battle, isn't it, that's at the heart of Trump's presidency, which is America first versus this kind of 2025 globalist, interconnected view of people like the Secretary General of Amnesty International and how those two ideologies match at this moment in time.
Well, you used the right word there, globalist. Uh,
Mm.
Trump is a nationalist, an unashamed nationalist who um, does believe in slogans like peace through strength and America first. And he's not going to take any lessons from anybody else about how America or its allies, such as Israel, behave. So it's very much in keeping with the spirit of Trump. In fact, one wonders how far his hostility will go. He's obviously taken America out of the World Health Organization, and some people fear that he wants to break up NATO, although I think we're a long way from that. But he definitely believes that might is right, that America is the most powerful country in the world, and that he's not going to be bossed around by a bunch of liberal globalist do-gooders. We are not in the age of universal values anymore. And Trump is making sure everybody knows it.